I'm going to touch on a couple different things that they've even already discussed in small detail, including yourself. Think of a time where you just couldn't wait for something. You were so excited, couldn't wait for something to happen. So I know the first thing that came to your mind is this class, right? So you're so excited. No, I'm just kidding. But think back even further. Was it to come to church? Remember, like, think back when you were a new convert. So how many of you grew up in the church in here? So most of us. So my grandparents were my original pastors. So when you grow up in the church, you have a completely different perspective on this than people who didn't. I mean, you've had that new convert fire. You guys, you've heard that term. And that's a real thing because it's something that's new. They get excited for it, and which is good for the rest of us, right? Because it helps, why am I not that on fire for this? And I think that can happen in our kids' ministry too, where you need to remember that you want to come into this on fire every single Sunday. So, but were you less excited maybe to see a loved one or a planned vacation? Anyone here from out of the area? Okay, perfect. It was probably something hopefully you were looking forward to, like just to get your learn on while you're here and get a break from real life for a few days. So, I bet all those things that you remember, as far as recent, if you actually thought something in your mind, were probably something as an adult. So, kids have a completely different perspective on things. Because when they think about, let's go, like one of the great memories, what is usually a kid's, one of their best memories as a kid, right? It's not involving, something that we would typically think of as a break from something. They're like, something like Disneyland, or, something that's like super fun, or like Sunday school. I don't know about you guys, our church is in a building program right now. And due to that building program, our Sunday school department was converted into a school, so we can then move across the street, and then our Sunday school department is being built. So we haven't had the ability to have a whole lot of Sunday school most Sundays. And kids find amazing ways of helping us as teachers remember why we do it. And it was a very touching moment for me when kids were coming up. Someone had said, I thought you guys were having Sunday school soon because we're doing a Mother's Day special. And to do that, I made up a song, and was sharing the words to you the other day. I made up a song. Have you guys ever heard the song, Every Praise? Every praise is to our God. Well, I made up songs about a mother to mothers, right? So the kids were so excited, and they come up to me like, when are we doing Sunday school again? When are we doing Sunday school again? It's like you forget that it's church for us, right? We're excited to go to church, but for them, if they have to sit in church, they don't usually get as much out of it when they sit in regular church, because some of the stuff is above their comprehension level, which is why Sunday school ministry is just something that is not just something we do, but it's something we live and breathe, and something that is so necessary. So thankful for each of you guys that are actually in part of this, but it's easy to forget how much kids look forward to their own Sunday school time. So because of that, it broke my heart when kids were like, when are we doing Sunday school again? Like, you think that they like it, but sometimes when they're in it, like you talk about discipline, how many times you have to get them to stay in line or to go to, it seems like they just don't care to be there. But that's not the case. It's a good reminder to always remember that you don't know, for one, you don't know what you don't know. And kids aren't always going to tell you that they look forward to it every Sunday. I mean, it's that gratification isn't something that they think of. So as adults, we look at things a lot differently. So remembering to look at things from a child's perspective. So I encourage each of you guys to take the time and maybe just ask your kids. Ask them the question, hey, what do you look more forward to in Sunday school? Like, what's your favorite part of Sunday school? I mean, what do you start with? Usually songs? Do you guys start with songs when you go to Sunday? That's how we do it, and that's like getting their energy, right? And getting them involved in it. Which is my next point. What energy are you specifically, what energy are you bringing to the classroom? Think back to our song service that we started out here. So you had Tyler that was kind of trying to learn as he went, but then did you guys see Sister Delaney? How much, like, I wish you could just bottle up that energy, right?
Right.
So that type of energy is something that it bleeds into everything and everybody around you. You can't help it, but you mentioned, I think it was you talking about the people you surround yourself with as far as who we have with as adults. And that's the same thing when it comes to energy. What kind of energy are you surrounding yourself with when you're inside the church and when you're outside of the church? So, classroom, if I was to be like, all right, so let's go ahead and go to the next section. And very monotone, and is that going to get a lot of kids' attention? You're not going to, right? So how do you get that energy into the classroom and get kids engaged with it? Our pastor, Pastor Mayo, we go to Cornerstone in Spokane, and Sister Mayo would talk to the choir. Do you have choirs? Okay, so are a lot of your choir members just standing there, usually just singing and kind of doing their thing? That's usually how most people are. Oh, dude, not me. I am absolutely, like, they actually come to me after church service and say, Brother Darian, I love watching you while you're up there. Because you know what? I got blinders. I don't care who's watching me. I don't care what I look like. Like, every praise be like, every praise to I mean, I'm swaying to where Sister Mayo actually now puts me on the front row to keep the sway going because everyone's horrible at it. They just can't keep the beat. So I got a guy who always stands next to me. He's Brother Mike. He's a big guy. And we bump shoulders constantly. It's where I start leaning into him when I know that it's coming because I already know he's coming the wrong direction. So we're already gonna hit shoulders. So, but that's the kind of energy. And you know what? Now, guess what? They've gotten so much better at sway. All it can take for one crowd, you guys, is one person. All it can take is one person to light that spark, to get that energy going, to help your classrooms. So be that. Be that spark for each of your guys' classrooms. Because, I mean, my niece is one of I kind of jump her around to different classes as one of our assistants. She's energy just like Delaney. And kids love her. So first I thought it was just maybe the one classroom, that's the first one's going, oh, I love it when you're in our classroom. But there's a reason for that. It's not that the other teachers don't have the energy, it's just when you've been doing it for a lot longer, it's easy just to make it a habit, right? It's just a habit where you just come there because that's what you do every Sunday. But the why behind it is, why do you do it? You don't do it just so you can teach. You don't do it because it's necessarily fun every Sunday, because you can make it fun every Sunday, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's work. Sometimes, like when you need to pray through, it's the time when it's the hardest to pray. And it's the same thing with class. It's sometimes the most difficult day that you can come and think, okay, I'm here today, but you know, I'm not really in it. Think of what that's going to represent to the kids. So, speaking of monotone, who's between high school and college? Anyone taking a college course or something where the teacher is so monotone? Like, I had one where the guy he had a really heavy accent. So for me, it was already a little harder to understand. So I'm really trying to stay tuned in. But then it was like mixed monotone with that. It was economics. So it's like that combination was like, God, like, help me through this, Jesus, please. Because it was so much work. Because it really, for me, it felt like it was that much extra. It was that harder for me to get what I needed out of it because of the teaching style. Isn't that funny how you can teach the exact same thing with monotone and have the exact same words, the same dialogue and everything, but just with different energy, you get something more out of it. You get more out of, because the person's putting more into it, right? So, take props, for example. At Summit, I chatted and I learned a lot from, you guys ever met Brother Chris Bradshaw? Obviously, Julian, I know you have. He's from Union City, Tennessee, and he is, again, and he's a big guy, huge bottle of energy as well. I mean, where him and Delaney were the ones that did the morning services at Summit in Tennessee, and it was so much fun. I had a lot of fun with them in the morning service, and we actually had, I think you talked to them too, we had a couple from North Carolina that said, hey, we're actually skipping Friday night service to have Friday night with you guys, just because it's all about that energy. And they run the youth department. They were not in Sunday school, but they run the youth department in their churches, and it's so much of it, like I'm glad they do it a teen class. I'm excited to be able to see that one. I think that's in the next session, right? And using props, but he had me chain him up. I know. Are you teaching on props? Is that one of the things you're? Yeah. So obviously he'll dig more deep dive kind of into this stuff, but using small things. I remember one time I was first starting to get, when we do breakouts with kids, we do all of our Sunday school classes by age and all of that, and then we come back into a center classroom and I do just a quick, like a 10-15 minute recap on things about what the lesson was for the day. And one time we were talking about, I'm trying to remember what the lesson was, but I brought in a weight, like a 15-pound weight, and I had the kids try to hold it out, right? Because it's like, it's the weight of sin. It was my object lesson, was the weight of sin, where it feels like something. I had them hold out a pen, right, and just hold onto the pen as long as they could, and it seems like it's so easy, but then after time, it's like their arm gets tired, even though it's only a pen. And I was like, especially use it, someone who thinks they're strong, like use a kid like that in this object lesson. It's so good because it's embarrassing for them because they're like, oh dude, you're a big tough guy. What are you weighing it down for? But then I compared that with, we're teaching kind of on David and Goliath as well, with the weight, and just using that weight. It was just one simple weight. I had a couple of kids come up and try to lift it, and there was so much more engagement just off of using one small prop in that. Again, it's about getting that stuff involved in the energy. But, so, what kind of questions, you guys will see this on there, what kind of questions or comments are you getting from people? Are you getting, hey, are you okay? Any coffee? Were you up late last night? So, if you're getting those questions, you don't want those questions. That means you're bleeding your negative energy, do I have to be here? I mean, who knows what your body language says, right? You're bleeding that to everyone else around you. Don't be Debbie Downer. Don't do that. So, if you're not getting those, I encourage you to put enough effort and energy into everything that you do. Because if you can put so much energy into the rest of your life too, that's going to bleed over into energy for God. So, I mean, it's like, I was talking to Brother Brooker beforehand, it's like, I don't have people that say that I don't have time for that. So where are you putting your focus? Is all your energy going into your work? What does that say to God? What does that say to the kids? If you're using all of your week's energy into that, instead of into the work of God and into your Sunday school staff. So, this could be, each Sunday could be your one chance to connect with some of these kids. So especially those that have bus ministry, sometimes you don't always get the same kids every Sunday. Sometimes it may be that their parents only let them out once a month. So if it's your one chance, is your attitude, here's the thing that really got me, is your attitude going to prevent that kid from getting the Holy Ghost that day? Are you setting that tone for them to not have that expectation and that excitement to be there? Do you want to have to answer that at the gates? Because all of us, our pastor talks about, you're not just going to be held accountable for what you've heard and didn't react to, but maybe that Sunday that you decided not to go to church, and that lesson that was that Sunday was something you were supposed to hear, and you didn't get to hear it. You're going to be held accountable for that. So, I don't want to be held accountable for letting a kid miss a Sunday, especially when they take the time to actually come. So remember that that's what we're here for. We're here to let them connect with God and not let our mood be what prevents them from getting what they need. So we already know, as adults, we're going to be there next Sunday. But are they going to be there next Sunday? Julian, you guys have, like with your bus, do you always have the same kids that come every single Sunday?
No.
So that's you never know. We never know when our time is, for sure. So just remember to always put a smile on your face and enjoy every moment God has given you. I worked retail for a long time. I had a client of mine who, he would have, every time he'd have this big smile on his face every day. And then one day after talk, I just loved chatting with him whenever he came into the store, just because he's such a joy to speak to. And afterwards, my boss was like, you ever know what happened to him? No? Like, had something happen? So this guy went through he had brain cancer. And he had to go and had to have brain surgery. So he had to drive back and forth to Seattle and was dealing with some crazy stuff, right? He had to go through a lot of chemo, he had to go through a lot of stuff. And I don't know if you guys have ever been around somebody that does that. It's very draining physically on your body, not just to mention the emotional damage that you're going through at the time too. So they had 5 kids. And this one time he had 3 kids that went over with him, and his wife couldn't make this trip, so he had to go over and back by himself. We live in Spokane, so it's like a 4.5-hour drive. And he went there, and one time he's coming back, he's starting to fall asleep at the wheel, and fell asleep, went into a ditch. It turned upside down in a canal with water, and just outside of George. And 3 of his kids drowned in this crash. Not only is he coming back and trying to deal with his own brain cancer, that he's trying to just stay alive, but he falls asleep because of all of that. And the guy still comes in, emotional, comes in every single day, excited. Just his thing is, hey, it's a good day. Even if he says it's a bad day and things go wrong, he's like, hey, it's every day's above ground. It's a good day. So I encourage you, use that mentality in your life, because you don't know when your last day is going to be, and use that to say, you know what, I can have an excuse to have a bad day, but is he gonna care? Is he care that you had a bad day? No, they want to be there to connect with God. That's why they're there. So that's what also makes the song ministry so powerful too, right? Is if you guys ever watch the kids, like especially when they're trying to learn a song, is they'll have their eyes just peel on teachers, right? Because they want to learn the motions, and they know that you are the one that's leading them to do that. So sometimes, have you guys ever had adults that, people that just are involved, but they just want to be involved, they don't actually want to help sometimes? And they'll stand on the outsides of song ministry and just kind of do a little bit, but not really do much. What example are they setting for the kids? So, not that this is off topic, but not that I'm trying to say be careful who you include in your kids ministry. Make sure they're setting that right example. And that's not something that's in my notes, but because that is going to be an important. You don't want someone who's going to be that roadblock, right? You want someone who's encouraging the kids and is helping get the energy across. So, if you have somebody that has that energy bottled up, or if it's you, it doesn't have to be one of us in leadership, but use anybody. Like you're talking about putting people, use them in their lane, right? Stay in your lane, find your sweet spot. Because you guys have those personality tests, you can do personality tests, and it shows like as far as what you're good at. And one of mine is not being scared to get in people's faces, not being scared to get in your bubble. Use somebody like that to go around and help kids. The kids, because sometimes kids will, especially if they're shy, they'll kind of be down. They'll kind of just sit there and not want to do much. I encourage you to help get them involved, because sometimes that's all it takes to put that smile on their face and to get them connected and to get them energized to help out. So, and if you need to, grab yourself a Red Bull, something, whatever you need. It gives you wings, right? Wish I heard somebody sue that didn't actually give them wings, which that's a whole different conversation. So preparation is key, you guys. Why is it important? So who has ever worked in a restaurant? So who has ever cooked? Okay, prep cook. So as a prep cook, if you don't know, so a lot of times people, even if they've never worked in the restaurant industry, they don't realize how many hours before you get there, before the restaurant opens, they have to get there to prep the stuff for that day. So they're there many, many hours before any of the front of house staff. If you got back of house, it's like cooks, whatever, and then you got front of house, it's like your servers. So they don't get there until much later. And if they didn't get there, the fresh produce wouldn't be ready that day, or the dishes wouldn't be stacked and prepared for that day. So, okay, this is honest hour. Who has waited until the last minute to prepare a Sunday school lesson? I've done it too. Yes, it happens. But let's realize, especially if you go to do something, you're like, oh, I need this for the lesson. Like I need this colored paper, or I need glitter. Like you're laughing hopefully because you can relate to it, and then you got to make a quick run to the store. It was like, I'll skip song service and come. Is that really what you should be doing? Is that a proper use of your time? So not being efficient can derail you faster than anything else. So when is the best time to prepare for your Sunday morning lesson? Spoiler alert, it's not that day. It's not Sunday morning. The best time to prepare for your Sunday lesson really is right after you finish your Sunday school lesson that day. Why not prepare? You already know where you're at. All the stuff is fresh in your mind. Start, okay, this is where we left off. Because sometimes you don't get everywhere you wanted, you don't cover everything you wanted to cover sometimes. And when that can happen, you'll okay, we'll save that part for next week. Write that down. You might not remember that in 4 days. So, but Brother Darian, that's a lot of work to do right after I just taught. Yeah, but if you do it every week, if you're doing that every week, it's, again, developing habits. I read a book, I don't know if you referenced this book, but there's a book, The Power of Habit. I strongly suggest to read that book. I randomly picked it up it was my daughter's birthday, and she wanted, I love that she wanted a book for her birthday. So I took her to a bookstore, and we're picking out a book, and then I was kind of rummaging through, and I saw a big bright yellow page, Power of Habit. I'm like, okay, I'll read it. I don't know about you, but you ever read like self-help books? They're like snoozers, right? It's like, you have to read it through like 8 different settings because it's so hard to continue reading sometimes. This isn't that style of book. It uses real life examples that really connect and really helps you think about, what am I doing to help create the right habits, or am I creating the bad habits? Because whatever you're doing throughout your day, you're creating a habit, for good or bad. So, and bad habits are really hard to fix after you've done it, because this book kind of breaks that down. I'd highly suggest it. But yeah, so if you do that every week, you'll know where you left off and what your kids were most interested in. Because sometimes there's certain things that they're like, oh, they want to hear more about that. Write that down. Use that for another lesson, another day, where you can really deep dive into that section. Especially some of these, like Joseph. The story of Joseph, there's so much involved in the story of Joseph. It's like you could really take time to deep dive into just how many times that he was thrown into bad situations, instead of how God brought him out of it, but just how he's kept the right mindset all through all of that. So this little stuff sometimes kids can be more interested in. So, but taking the proper time to prepare your lesson is obvious, right? Well, what seems obvious to us might not be obvious to some of your staff. So, I mean, some of that stuff just drives me crazy. Like, being someone, I want to be prepared, I want to do this. Like, I didn't write this last night. You know, I had to have our stuff in by, I think Tuesdays when we sent all of our stuff into them, with the papers and such, but be prepared. Are you helping your team by setting the proper expectations? So especially those if they're new to Sunday school, if you're recruiting new people to your Sunday school, which I hope you're always actively recruiting, because having too many people is a great problem to have. As Brother Julian was telling me today, he had too many people on his bus ministry staff, and now they're a little short-staffed. So you don't know when that stuff will come up, because like my niece who has bottled up energy, super happy, not happy for me, but happy for her that she runs our live stream now for our church, which means I can't have her in Sunday school anymore. So, but you got to always have someone that is ready to go, and when you have those people that come in, make sure that you're setting that right expectation, because if they come in just very dull energy, if they're a high energy person, they're not going to want to stay in it, and that's the type of people you need in Sunday school, because those people help drive the energy in the room. They help drive all of our energy. So, because not all of us are going to have that energy. My wife, not that way. We complement each other well. She's way more of the admin and, okay, let's do this with craft, very artsy. I don't know any of that, but I can help out with the energy in the room. Not a problem. So, but, use all of that, everything you learn throughout your life, really in developing with that, when something's going on, understanding how to connect with people. All of us work, probably, you connect with people is a big skill to have. So I highly suggest to do whatever you can. Push out of your comfort zone, because that's when you'll get the most out of yourself, is when you're uncomfortable. When things are uncomfortable, this is a little uncomfortable for me, but I'm happy to share things that work for me. What works for me might not always work for you, but you might get something out of it that might help you. So And you know what? All of that work, all of the main work is already done when you're for your Sunday school lessons. You can do it the week before, but don't be scared to tweak it. Don't be scared to fine-tune it. Because sometimes you can be like, oh, you know what? And this is a great topic for that. Is if you already have something planned, you already have kind of an idea in your head about what you're going to do, and you're like, oh, it would make it great is if we added this to that. Because if you're putting it all together the same day, you don't think of those little additions. You don't think of those little extra add-ons that might push that lesson over the top for the kid. And if you have your lesson planned way ahead of time, that's the kind of stuff, because then you're thinking about it throughout the week. And I mean, everyone ever had that kind of situation where you have something in your mind and you're like, oh man, I could do this, that would make that way better. I'm sure as you build props, if you ever built like props for your school, be like, oh, dude, why don't we add that? Like, that would be super cool. And those kind of brainstorm sessions are great to have. Because that's when, are you laughing because he does it all the time? Is that? But all your work is already done, so don't be scared to improve on it. But so don't assume anything. Okay, who has a driver's license here? Yeah, perfect. So I'm choosing you. What's your name? Tamara. Yeah, Tamara? Okay, so this is Tamara. Let's say you're on a 4-lane road, okay? A bus is in the far right lane, stops with flashing lights. Do you stop? It's kind of a trick question. So this was a 4-lane highway. So I didn't say if it was all one direction or 2 directions. So, which kind of leads into my next one, the details matter, right? But who knows the answer to this? If it's a 4-lane highway and you're headed all in the same direction, okay? It's like a 4-lane highway and there's a bus on the far right lane, do you stop? No. You absolutely have to. So, if it's a 4-lane highway where there's 2 directions going, you don't stop. If you're on the other side. So, my daughter's going through, I use this as an example, my daughter just went through driver's ed. And she would ask me questions, and she would assume I drive, so I know the answer to these questions. And I can tell you, I didn't know some of these. So, and actually, I fact-checked myself. This is, again, I fact-checked myself last night, thinking like, no, I should make sure that that's actually a rule in California. Because I know the Washington rule, but I didn't know if it was nationwide. And I looked it up, and it's the exact same way. But you know, don't assume anything. So, because kids can sometimes assume that we're the ones they look up to, that we know all the answers. We don't. We don't know all the answers. But are we going to tell our kids that we don't know all the answers? Like, you know, we want them to come to us when you need help, and we'll help you through it. But, you know, the point is, you know, we all have different things that we consider common knowledge. But think about things like a kid. Okay? What's common knowledge for us isn't common knowledge for children. For us, especially that grew up in the church, Noah building the ark is a story everybody knows, right? Don't assume that. You don't know what kids don't know. So until you ask and find that out. But you know, when you grow up in church, it's easy to assume that. You know, that the kids, oh, sure, they know the basic miracles and wonders of the Bible. Of course, right? So my wife did not grow up in the church. So after she started coming to church with me, she would ask questions about some of the things Pastor was talking about. And at first I'm like, how do you not know that? Like, I didn't internally, that was what went through my mind. Of course, I'm not going to say that and make her feel bad about asking, right? So, but, you know, explaining these stories with renewed energy is important and needed for the first time some kids will hear the works of God. Because again, you don't know what they don't know. And so even though some of the other kids that are in the, like, okay, we've heard this story, you know, of Noah about 10 times in the last, few years, it doesn't matter. Some of the other kids that are there might be hearing it for the very first time. So you have to teach it with the same type of energy every single time. So, and kids are so eager to say they know something too, right? Even if they have no idea. Like, yeah, me. So, like, let's play this scenario out, okay? Who can tell me who Cain's brother's name is? Oh, I know. Okay, yeah, you. What's the name? Moses. No, but good try. So, you know, it's funny that I just love how confident kids can seem when they really have no clue what the answer is. So, and it's, well, and I'll lead into this with Acts 2:38, of course, is commonly preached, right? We commonly preach that in our churches, but are we talking about that enough in Sunday school? Are you explaining to the kids what it means to be saved? So sure, it's important to know the works and everything of God, all those stories of Noah and Moses and Samson and all that, but do they know why baptism is important? So it's not just knowing that they have to do it, but are we explaining to them why?
Right.
So sometimes the why will be what is missing for them to be able to connect, especially as they start to get to those upper ages of Sunday school, where they start to piece that together. Maybe that one last piece of why was what they were missing that they weren't able to comprehend as a 7 or 8-year-old. So, do they think, when they hear a Holy Ghost, do they think it's a ghost story?
Yeah.
Or is it the path to salvation? If they don't know, they don't know. But the easiest path to get the Holy Ghost for these kids, right? Because that's our goal. We want to connect them with God. We want everyone in our Sunday school departments to be saved. So the easiest path to get there is by setting an understanding of what it is in basic kid terms. Break it down. Don't get complicated. Make it easy for the kids. Because if you're making it difficult for them to understand, sometimes if they don't know, that they'll be scared to ask the question. Oh, can you explain? What does that mean? Sometimes they won't do that, especially if it's a shy kid. They're not going to ask those questions. So break it down into basic kid terms. Really, if you get down to even the small ones, it's God in our hearts. I mean, really, you can say something as simple as that will help them connect to say, it's that's what you need. That's what the Holy Ghost is. But what works for you? So what do you explain to your kids? How do you explain it? That's all of us are going to have our own way of getting that across. I just encourage you to fine-tune that, and don't forget to focus on stuff like Acts 2:3, your basic path of salvation. But I'm supposed to go to 250 here, so I do have a couple more sections, so that's perfect. So I guess we could all probably say that COVID changed a lot of things. It's kind of an understatement of the century, right? So, I mean, it seems like nowadays COVID is the excuse to not give the right service, or to not have things in stock, or to not, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be something, but to not have enough gas at the gas station, or to have a lot of people in. I mean, it's the excuse for so many things. But what it did encourage and help us do is developing something for the kids to take home with them. How are they worshiping from home? Or are you setting them up to be able to do these things from home? So I would love to hear some ideas. What are any of you doing, if you would be willing to share? What are you doing to help them worship from home? Any ideas from anybody? What do you got?
Well, I'm teaching from the book, and they come with the workbook. And what I've been doing with my girls, I teach only girls 10 to 14 years old. And what I've been doing is I've given them points, and I have a treasure chest. And I told them, I said, we don't have time, because our classes actually run really, our time is very limited.
Okay.
So we actually don't have time to go over the workbook, which should be worked in class.
Okay.
And so it's, what I've been doing with them is I tell them, I want you to go home, because this has to do with our lesson, and I want you to work on it and bring it back next Sunday. And I give them points for them bringing them up, and so it just kind of emphasizes the lesson, and it drives it more.
The school does it too, right? I mean, school's giving you a workbook. Why not Sunday school?
Yeah.
So that's a great thing. We actually have, and that's what I love about your idea with workbooks. And I'm sure that anyone else doing workbooks, something to take home. I mean, sometimes you do handouts, but I love the idea of workbooks because, I mean, think about it. Especially if it's a bus ministry kid, they're going to take that home, and who are they going to ask for help in filling that out?
Right.
They're going to get their parents involved. So that's a great tool to not just reach the kid, but to help maybe reach everyone else in that household. So that's why I love things like this. I love people. I wanted this to be a little bit more interactive. I want to be able to pick your guys' brains too. So I'm here to learn just like you guys are. But basics: do all your kids have Bibles? So I mean, that seems like something so simple, but if you haven't already included purchasing Bibles to give out to your at church to your kids, I highly suggest that you start today. Do that now. Yes.
In our youth class, I bought a devotional for our
Awesome.
young people, and then they would talk about it at the next Wednesday night youth service.
Devotionals. That's it. Especially as they get to those older ages, is having something. John?
We do the Bibles too. Every first-time visitor, we get a Bible that you can purchase on Amazon in a bulk for very cheap.
Awesome.
And in there, we'll have a bookmark that will have the plan of salvation in it, so that they could take home with them.
Genius.
So,
Path of Salvation bookmarks. That is something I'm going to take home to ours. We have not done that. Where do you guys order those from?
Philip did it, so I would have to clarify that with
Okay.
him. So
I would love to know that, if you could share that.
one other twist we just started recently doing is, so every kid was getting a Bible, and we'll ask every kid, hey, who has a Bible? We started getting that repeat kid every single Sunday, and we'll just get Bible after Bible after Bible, and we'll give it to them, no questions asked. But now we put a little twist to it, and we started singing the song, the Bible Book Bop, and it sings all the books of the Bible, Genesis, Exodus. So what we did is, if any kid, so we'll sing this every single Sunday, and if any kid, after we go through the whole song, if any kid could come up and quote all the books of the Bible in order, we'll give them a Bible, but a much nicer Bible, so something that they would earn. And now that kid wasn't just giving out a free Bible, he earned it and he'll keep it. And what brought that up actually is, when I was a child, when I was 9 years old, I got my first Bible by quoting all the books of the Bible, and so we kind of just implementing the same thing, giving it to kids too. So.
And why that's powerful is it creates ownership.
Yes.
It's a sales tool, right? I've spent all my life working in sales, and one of the common things in sales, and you'll think back, of course, when you go to a car, let's go and take it for a test drive. It's every single time. Like, never fails. Glass, let's go take it for a test drive. Because they want you behind the wheel, creating ownership. So I worked in a car audio place for 16 years, is what I used to do. And that was a common thing, especially for like subwoofers in their hands. Because as soon as they can get wrapped them on the ears, and they, especially with Bibles, that's so important. They earn it. They don't just get the Bible, the nicer Bible, to get the nicer Bible, to get it because they understand it. They know the books of the Bible, and they've earned it. I love that. It creates ownership with it. So what I had started doing is I used to teach, before my wife and I were the Sunday school directors, I used to teach what's called the Extreme Team class, which is 10 to 12, sometimes 13, depending on, I'm sure you've all had this, depending on how mature they are. Sometimes they'll stay in a little bit longer. And sometimes you wish they didn't stay in a little bit longer, but it's necessary. But when they would graduate out of that Extreme Team class, I would purchase, like he said, a nicer Bible, especially when they put the effort into it. Because the Extreme Team is outside of the normal 5th grade and up class. It's something they have to earn and sign a contract to be a part of. Because it takes more dedication, it takes more practices after, on Saturdays and in midweeks and whatever it may be. But I started doing that where when they graduate out, I would order them a nice one, and I would handwrite a nice note from them about just encouraging them or whatever that individual child needs. And I can tell you now, a few of them, one of them's a drummer in our church. They have graduated out, and my niece was actually one of them too. I didn't realize, at first I was like, it'd be something nice for the kids to do and be able to help them transition into their adult life in church and be able to have something that they own. Because not every kid in your church can probably afford a Bible, or their parents might not be able to afford it. They don't put as much effort or attention into that as they should. But I did not realize how much emphasis and just how impactful that was to them. Where some of them have come up to me years later, like, hey, I still have the Bible you gave me. Like, awesome, very cool. I mean, something that's going to cost you about $30, maybe a little bit more to get a really nice a study Bible or something. But stuff like that, especially, and I had them engraved. I would have them engraved with their name on them. So if you don't do something like that now, I encourage that as well. I mean, something that helps, like he was saying, whether you do it if they quote the books of the Bible, or if they graduate out of a special class, or whatever. Just anything that helps create that ownership and plants their feet on solid ground in God. And what a better way to do that with the Word of God. So, I'm sure almost all of your kids have a phone, tablet, computer, or combination of all of the above. So, you guys how many have to tell their kids to put their phones away? Sometimes when you're in Sunday school. So, you're shaking your head. I'm glad it's not just me. So, to the point where sometimes they can get out of hand how much time they're spending on those devices, right? So, but sometimes, especially when they're at home, that's probably what a lot of them are going to do, going to fall back on, especially if they're doing school from home. Because a lot of people, I know my eldest, when they transitioned to do high school from home, where they wouldn't even let them do it in person during her sophomore year, we just ended up keeping her online because sometimes if you go to a public school, there can be a lot of negative influences as well. But we ended up keeping her online, and it's, they spend a lot of time on their computers. So YouTube, if you guys, who's witnessed or been to Brother Booker's YouTube channel? You shut it. Obviously you're involved. No, but it's great. He has like six. I looked at before. I looked yesterday. 6,600 subscribers. Think of how many people he is reaching that might not necessarily even be in their church. I mean, how many people do you have in your church?
On a regular, probably about 400.
Okay, 400. Not 4,000, 400. 6,600 subscribers he has. So I'm sure a lot of them, like, I'm subscribed, my wife is subscribed, like we have people at our church that are subscribed just because it's great to see ideas and all that stuff. Do you guys do your own channel and stuff yet?
Not really.
That guy would say yet. So, but most kids are going to have YouTube, so why not give them something useful to watch? Don't be intimidated by Brother Booker having 6,600 subscribers. He didn't start with that. So start small. But start now. Do something that's going to get the kids involved at home, whether it be with a workbook, whether it be with a channel. Well, I actually started with Extreme Team. We would do special plays. We did a skit for Easter about breaking free. I actually would love to, Brother Gabe, I'd love to share it with you. It was very impactful with adding, like, as I would have, like, the first play would be to a song, and as they would go throughout life, there'd be like certain spirits that can get attached to you if you surround yourself with the wrong people, like the fighting. And it leads to the song where the guy has, we did a full-out play where the guy has got chains. We put these big long chains on him, and all the names. I had a name of the spirit was attached to the kid's shirt. I have it printed on the shirt. So as they come up, they would like attach it. So you talk about how you go throughout life and you don't even know that that's there sometimes. It's something you do will help attach a negative spirit. And especially kids in public school, especially, they're around some of that stuff. They can have some of those spirits without meaning to, just being around the wrong people that can get attached to them. And it's just, to me, it was really powerful in how the struggle, where they would line up and they'd pull the chains. There's 4 kids on each side with all the spirits, and the guys in the middle trying to, like, just not realizing he's struggling with all this stuff inside of him. And that where ends up, they all come and God comes through and helps him lift his hands, and the chains, God throws the chains off, remove those chains. Just anything that's impactful like that. And with that, I mean, people were loving it in church. And it was just, for me, it's passionate, right? Put your passion into what you do. And I posted it to YouTube channel, and I probably haven't gotten a ton of views, but I wanted to make sure that was out there, because when we held our summit event, the youth group, because some of them were in youth group at that point, or the youth night, they did it for the talent show. They held like a talent show thing, and the kids on their own, I wasn't able to be there to help them direct it, but they showed me how bought in they were to do things like that. So I don't know if you do plays or something for the main church, but that would, to me, if you can take the time, it's a lot of time and it's a lot of effort, but if you can do things like that get the kids involved and get them bought in, that's what our Extreme Team was doing things like that, that the whole church can benefit from. And then sometimes the church would be like, look at Sunday school as a babysitter, right? And really, that's how some parents look at it. It's like, oh, I get a break from my kids. Awesome. Well, I encourage you to let the church, make your church understand how vital your ministry is. It's not just a ministry to help take the time with the kids, but you're there to impact their lives for the rest of their lives and lead them on the right path in the most difficult transitional times in their life. Because a lot of times, especially when they hit that, that's why we did that, they're very directional with understanding the 10 to 13-year-olds. That's when they're starting to develop some of that, and that's why we have that Extreme Team with those kids. For one, they're a little bit easier to be more involved in stuff, but that's when they're struggling with puberty and all that other stuff that comes up. So get them involved, and obviously I got sidetracked on the main topic of creating a YouTube channel. So what we do after Summit, I came in Tennessee, I came back on fire about songs. There's so many cool songs that I heard. I'm glad that we're doing that today. Like those 2 songs, my wife was like, oh, these are awesome. Like, they named these songs down. And I love that stuff that gets energy is, who was struggling doing the, I've had 2 hip replacements. I was like, like trying to keep up as much as I could. But we started doing our own songs as well. I just heard the song, "At the Top of My Lungs I'll Sing." Yeah. Got that from Sister Delaney when we were there in Tennessee. Yeah. We sang that, I learned that, and I incorporated that song, and we, instead of just, we taught the kids and everything, they love it, right? There's a lot of energy, especially when you talk about sweating after one song, because since you're jumping the whole time you're doing it, "At the top of my lungs I'll sing, all hard I will praise you." And I'm like, you know what, let's make this a video. Let's do our own video, because sometimes, especially when we're going to do a song that is done, especially the power shuffle, to the left, all the ones that are on YouTube, they're not dressed properly. That is something that you would want to show in church. So if there's not any available, I'm like, let's do it. Let's do our own. Especially we have one of my friends, actually, and my niece works for him, is involved in videography. It's what they do. Use the people at your disposal that have these talents or these businesses. For one, it'll kill 2 birds with 1 stone too. You'll prevent kids from watching something that maybe they shouldn't be watching, right? You'll give them something to watch, and you'll maybe help somebody in the church's business in the process. So we started doing that. We recorded our own. We've done a couple run-throughs. I haven't posted it yet. So what we're doing is we get the teachers involved initially to teach the kids. So we did our own video just of the motions so they can take it home and watch it. But then what we're going to do is we're going to do a full, cool music video. How cool would that be for them to be able to watch that at home and have it be apostolically dressed people involved in it? Not the world, not, everybody in pants and, all that is, you don't want to surround your kids with that. So why not do something that they can take home and you can be that? Don't let someone else do it. Why don't you do it? I'm going to do it, but I suggest you to do it. I suggest every one of you that have, because I know you guys have the props and the sets to do it already too. Oh my goodness. I'm so excited for his set class. But, so we just started recording some simple videos. And the kids, I'm like, how powerful would that be to be able to have that be at home? Because who knows, maybe that worship song will get stuck in the parents' minds. I had a text I love to get. I had a mother in church text me and say, "Hey, what is the song? It's, I think, something about this and this that my daughter keeps singing." She's 4. And she is singing this song all the time at home and all the time in the car. And it was "At the Top of My Lungs." It's that song because we had recently taught her. But I did not even think she was paying attention. She's 4. So, and it's amazing. You never know who you're going to reach at what time. So put all your energy and effort into it, everything that you can, because how powerful is it going to be able to have your kids take something home and teach their friends? If she does it all the time there, if she's around friends from school, if she goes to a public school eventually, those kids that are in that age groups, why not help them be a witness? Just by songs, something so simple as a song that you're going to teach them. So that's part of what makes kids' ministry so powerful, is they're throwing their entire bodies into the worship. Are you? Are you getting up there and putting all your energy into these songs and doing the motions? I saw some of y'all. Don't be thinking that I wasn't watching, looking around. No, I'm just kidding. I really was. I was focused on learning this stuff. So, but that's part of it, right? It's putting the energy. But actually, it's funny. I'm going to call my wife out. Of course, this is live. Perfect. I looked back and she was taking notes on the songs. I looked back and, "What are you doing? Why aren't you doing the song with us?" Like, come on, we're here to learn. So, but what makes it so powerful is their whole bodies are involved in it, you guys. Because they're thinking they're trying to learn motions, and we don't do that just to keep them busy. It's everything you do matters, and they're putting their energy to God. They're not just giving their voice to God at that point. They're putting their energy into God, and that energy, again, it's powerful. It's impactful. So, and think about this. How will that make parents feel if they see their kids praising with their whole bodies from home? It's going to have one of two reactions. They're going to be proud, like, "Yeah, that's my kid." Like, you got your kid involved in that stuff. Or 2, are they going to feel convicted? Are they going to see like, "My kid's doing that. What example am I setting for my kids?" I hope it's the first, but I also hope those that need it if you set that example and you push that to your kids, if they're going to feel convicted about it, hopefully it'll bring their kid up even to another level as well. So, yes?
One of the funnest things to do is when you do motions to like a choir song, like the song, God is fighting for us,
Yes.
pushing. And we'll be doing the motions to that, and then we sing it in church, and you see Sunday school kids, and they're just sitting there, and they're doing it.
I love
just,
it.
Yeah, so that's really cool, too.
I love it. So that's what I hope with every praise is the kids, because then we put motions, it's every hug is for my mom. They're going to point to their mom. Every kiss at bedtime is for my mom. Yeah. So it's stuff like that, you guys, because every time they're going to hear that song, they're going to think of that Mother's Day song. And I can tell you, I'll never get the song out of my head from now on for every praise anyways. So but the first one I ever did was, there's something, this means war, right? So on that one I did also for Mother's Day. It was like 3 years ago. We said, that's my mom. And they would point to their mom. So, but it's in fun. You do all that in fun too, but it serves a purpose, right?
Yeah.
Is you're setting that example and you're getting them involved, and especially when it comes to songs, I love that idea. So getting them involved in songs and motions that the choir already does. That's great. So last quick topic, what else should your kids know? No one understands your kids like you do. You are going to be the best resource for that. But are you paying attention to your kids enough to know? So have a staff meeting often enough. Yes? 2 minutes? Okay. It's a good thing I'm on my last song.
We're trying to be subtle.
I know.
That's the thing. 2! Yes, I was behind the camera. Woo! Thank you for the energy. She's cracking up now. So, have a staff meeting, you guys, often enough to discuss what's working and what might need to change. So have brainstorming sessions like this. Brainstorm different ideas, because especially I encourage you, my wife and I we're on a thing where I want to be able to experience different churches everywhere. I've talked with Gabe about I want to go to his church. I'm going to Rialto on Sunday, excited to ride with their bus ministry this Sunday. Yeah! So she's doing this in the back. It was more of a... I got embarrassed for you one more.
I'm like, all right, okay.
Such a strategy to be like, I've never come around this guy again. But you know what? More heads are better than one. So don't try to be the superhero on your own. You're not going to know everything. You know what? And I love, surround yourself with people that challenge you. It is important. Just after, literally, I was challenged today. Thank you, Sister Robin, when you watch this later. So in one of the songs I was wanting to change, we did all my work, is what we were doing. I said, I don't like the motion. Let's change it. Let's do all my time. Because to me, that's more impactful to your mom, right? But she's like, well, what if we did this? And what if we let, I don't think that's a great idea, but the fact that she does, and she wants to get the kids involved in it, I need to listen. I need to be, it's sometimes good that, especially us in the leadership roles, to keep us in check. So, just because we think it's a good idea doesn't mean that it's going to be the best thing for your Sunday school department. That's why we have great staff members. That's why you surround yourself with people who are going to challenge you, because you might need it. I know I do. You can ask my wife. I need to be challenged. Because I'm talking about the kids about being passionate, whether if you're right or wrong. Like, I don't know if you ever played, there's a game, Codenames. Yeah. You ever played the game Codenames? So this around a bunch of different words, and you can say one word clue and how many that relates to it. It doesn't matter, I can be completely wrong, but I can be like, I'm so confident I'm right. I would convince everyone else on my team, no, this is the one. We pick it, and I'm wrong. So,
that is the assassin. And you go.
So, but don't be the superhero on your own. Use every resource that is at your disposal to show the kids who the real superhero is, Jesus Christ.
Amen.
So, thank you guys for your time. I greatly appreciate it. If you got one thing, I hope you got at least one thing out of this. Because you know what? I know I got a few things from each of you out of it. So, greatly appreciate it.